The Philippines ran for a non-permanent United Nations Security Council seat and lost. The defeat was a setback for a country that's been seeking greater say in multilateral affairs, at precisely the moment the international order is under strain. Secretary of Foreign Affairs Tess Lazaro sat down with DW to talk about how Manila is adapting its security relationship with the U.S. around economic interests, as Washington itself shifts away from values as the foundation of its alliances. Secretary Tess Lazaro, thank you for sitting down with us today. Now, just getting on to the most recent news, of course, you're speaking to us right after that UN Security Council vote, where the Philippines, of course, lost in its bid to get a non-permanent seat. It lost to Kyrgyzstan after multiple rounds and by quite a wide margin. How did that happen?
I just want to correct, it's not really by a wide margin. It had 4 rounds. The first round was 105.85, and then of course round after round it has gone down. But how did it happen? I can only surmise that there was a lot of geopolitical issues involved, and I think that the Philippines if we have won the candidature, that would have been our 5th from the time that we started. We have presented ourselves, we have a track record in peacekeeping, 15,000 peacekeepers, in the issue of multilateralism, on the adherence to the UN Charter, on women, peace and security, on the nexus between climate change and security, and all these other issues. I can only surmise that certain geopolitical issues have become some kind of a deterrent to our winning the candidature.
I'd be interested in getting into that a bit more, but obviously a few alternative explanations apart from that have also come up. We also heard from the presidential press spokesperson. She blamed political turmoil within the Philippines, specifically what's going on in the Senate. Recently, we heard gunshots in the chamber. There was also a leadership struggle within the Senate. How much credence do you give to that particular explanation?
Well, it's really hard to judge because I'm not in Manila, although I've been reading it also in the papers. From an internal point of view, probably the things happening in our Senate is something that is really bothering the general Filipino population. But I think that it may be a factor, but I still think from a different point of view, it's geopolitics.
So domestic politics may have played a role.
May have played a role. I wouldn't discount that it's not totally out of the issue.
Yeah, but the picture is much bigger. Now, you alluded earlier to geopolitical considerations. And of course, there is this analysis emerging that the UNSC vote came out the way it did because the center of geopolitical gravity is shifting from the Indo-Pacific to Eurasia because of the interest in critical minerals, because of the need to find overland energy routes away from maritime choke points. Now, what do you think that reading means for Manila in its role as a voice for the Global South?
Well, Eurasia, yes, it's coming up, it's emerging, but I think the real issue is the Indo-Pacific. This is where most of the population, most of the resources, and a good number of developing countries have emerged. Credibility is very high of these countries. I think Eurasia is just starting. But it may be also that, I just want to stop at that. I think it's really the countries of Indo-Pacific that really have a lot to offer to the world globally.
And that's where you feel the world's attention should be focused on more and less on Eurasia.
I will not say that in that statement that you made. Eurasia is equally important. But in this particular situation, the geopolitical issues have sort of come out, in which determined that the results of the elections.
Now, staying on geopolitics, there was also this more pointed critique that perhaps Manila was too close to Washington, and some critics say that perhaps Manila's seat at the table would de facto be an extension of Washington's voice. What do you say to those critics?
Well, the United States, we have is a very important ally and partner of the Philippines. The fact that we have a mutual defense treaty, our only treaty ally. So relations between the two countries are ironclad and very strong on many, many aspects, political, economic, and people-to-people relationship. So many countries have also the same kind of affiliations and relationship. It may be a factor. I wouldn't really close the I mean that fact, but it is important that this relationship is a very strong relationship in all aspects and disciplines of our relationship.
But is the framing of the Philippines being with the US and Kyrgyzstan being more aligned with China and Russia correct?
To a certain extent, yes. Again, I cannot be very definite, but as I mentioned initially, geopolitical forces are at work.
Can you give us a sense of what the Philippines would have contributed had it gotten a seat at this table? And how would the Philippines continue to push that agenda with that avenue no longer being available?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, thank you for that question. And I would say that whether we are in the Security Council or not, we will continue to adhere to these issues that we have been advocating for. Probably the first one is multilateralism. I think this is really very important, and needless to say, adherence to the UN Charter, vis-a-vis also to the ASEAN Charter, being the chair of ASEAN now for 2026. Second is issues on women, peace and security, which we have been practically advocating. Third is the nexus between climate change and security, and there are other formulations on this matter, because if there's anyone to be considered a poster boy or girl of climate change issues, that's the Philippines. We've always been the epicenter of many of these natural calamities, and we we know that many of our countries in the South issues are also involved, and we want to really lead the group because we want to mitigate the destruction of these calamities we've been suffering. There is also a peacekeeping. In fact, my records show that we have already sent through the years 15,000 peacekeepers, most of them women. So these are the things that, or rather the points that we would like to convey to the General Assembly, what we can do and what we could have done.
And how hindered is this agenda by by this UNSC vote?
Well, I don't think it's hindered. As I said, whether we are in the Security Council or not, we will continue to advocate and adhere to these issues that we have really proposed to lead if we were in the Security Council.
Going to U.S.-Philippine relations, 2026, of course, is a year of very big anniversaries. 80 years of Philippine-U.S. Relations, 75 years of the Mutual Defense Treaty.
Correct.
Now, the U.S.-Philippine alliance is often touted as a strong alliance that is guided by the rules-based order, but we appear to be in a time where that rules-based order is being de-emphasized. One only has to look at the comments of Secretary of Defense of the U.S., Pete Hegseth, saying that durable partnerships are not underpinned by values, but by national interests. Now, have values been sidelined in this alliance?
Well, again, I will respond to you this way. Yes, the defense cooperation is really very important because of what we're facing in the South China Sea. For us to be security strong, we have to be strong also in the economic terms. In other words, well, we're shifting in the sense that um, business as well as in the economic um, encouragement of companies that are investing in the Philippines, I think will really strengthen our our security, our political, the security per se. Let's just start with the MOU on critical minerals, and then there's the PAC Silica, which is now I think it's a good grouping of people, and it's all connected to the establishment of the Luzon Economic Corridor. This is hopefully the hub data centers, AI, and many of these high tech companies, and we're looking at that now. This is what we are requesting, United States as well as of course the companies that are based here and that have been based in the Philippines, because I just met them. They're all expanding their businesses in the Philippines. So we're looking at this particular corridor.
Can you give us a sense of what's been said or what's been committed to in terms of these businesses expanding their investments in the Philippines?
Well, this includes. I'm just want to be. I may not be very precise. 4,000-acre property in the Clark area, which quite familiar with, and hopefully this will be transformed into a hub of logistics. Of course, all the high-tech industries that intend to establish their businesses there, or is already in the Philippines and intends to expand. It's really a logistical hub, a manufacturing base that involves high-tech materials, and of course definitely AI.
So on the Luzon Economic Corridor and on PAC Silica, there has also been some pushback because there are those who say that the Philippines may be put in a position where they're providing land and cheaper labor and minerals, but that the U.S. retains the technology and the value. Now, how would you reassure those critics that this is an equal partnership and that the Philippines is getting a fair deal?
Well, number one reason is our constitution. The Philippine constitution is very specific on the percentage of establishing business in the Philippines. So therefore, the fears that the United States legal provisions will prevail will definitely not be allowed by the Constitution, because that will just prolong the situation. It will go to the Supreme Court. It will be declared unconstitutional. We don't want it to happen. We want to give business the not only the credibility but also the security that all of this will be above board, and in of course also in congruence or aligned with the Philippine Constitution.
So the context for this, of course, is that the U.S. had asked for PAC Silica to be covered by U.S. laws. I was just wondering why they would make that ask. Does that mean they don't trust Philippine governance or regulations in this regard?
I wouldn't surmise what they're thinking of, but I guess they want some kind of form of stability. Again, it's hard to second guess what they're thinking of, but we are of the view that there is always a compromise language or provision that can support this particular undertaking. We're not closing the door, but definitely we are not going to be making use of U.S. laws. There might be some kind of we can always find some kind of middle agreement on this.
Staying with economic conditions in the Philippines, so the war on Iran, which of course was a U.S. decision, has led to massive inflation in the country. Now, the Philippines, of course, was among the hardest hit in the region. And some analysts do say that this is fueling a level of disillusionment among some ordinary Filipinos. Would you say that the U.S.-Philippine alliance could be at risk of losing ordinary Filipinos?
Again, I'd like to respond to that from a different perspective, in the sense that when you talk about the Middle East crisis, the Philippine government's focus is on our 2.5 million Filipinos in the GCC alone. And of course, the 500,000 seafarers flying the route, going through the Strait of Hormuz, and they have been manning all of these ships, container ships, and many other um, means of going through, carrying all these important products. So that is our concern, and therefore all the efforts have always been to make sure of their safety and protection. That's how we're addressing this issue, because we know there's a bigger political issue, but let's go to the basics first. We have to take care of our people.
Is this a matter of prioritization? First, the seafarers and the Philippine nationals stuck in the GCC, and number two is where the disillusionment of ordinary Filipinos might be as a result of this?
The disillusionment, let me address that, is being addressed by President Marcos' administration. Limited resources as we may have in terms of budget, there has always been efforts on the part of government to make sure that that to ease the burden. Just take an example. Why did the president announce the national energy emergency? That is a basic requirement under the law to be able to, for the president to be able to let's say, suspend a certain percentage of the excise taxes. So that was what Congress offered for him to be able to ease the burden of the Filipino population, or the bigger Filipino population. Actually, there had been also a lot of efforts to not only in the terms of taxes, but giving them assistance, and that has been some kind of effective in the sense, because all walks of life, from the ordinary jeepney driver to the fisher folks, to the farmers, the president has been looking to that.
Did you happen to talk to your counterpart, Secretary Marco Rubio, while you were here about the war in Iran?
Yes, we had discussions on that, but it was not really focused there. It was really focused on many, on issues, bilateral issues particularly.
Staying with the war, of course, we also note that you negotiated with Iran to secure safe passage for Philippine-flagged vessels through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes, if there's a necessity, but I guess we're all waiting for the final decision when the blockade will be removed, when Iran will allow the ships to ply the route, to enter the Strait of Hormuz. It's evolving, actually.
Yes, in a way, it feels like it is evolving, but somehow it is also staying the same.
Yes, well, probably I'm just an optimist. I would think that it's going toward a certain direction, but of course it's not as what we expect.
Did you tell the U.S. government at all of the impact that it is having on ordinary Filipinos? Has that come?
I think they're aware of that. It has been conveyed to them. We have a strong U.S. embassy in Manila. I think the issue there is that the Filipino people are very much affected. Actually, initially our problem is supply. But it's not a supply issue now. It's the cost of the energy, and it has taken its toll. But it's just that probably the main effect of this is we may not be able to reach our development growth rates, which is we were hoping, but it's still not at the end of the year. We're just in the middle of the year. Let's see.
And how much of that really is attributable to this U.S. decision to attack Iran?
Well, to a certain extent, perhaps there is, but again, I really don't want to respond to those questions, because I think it's a very big geopolitical discussion. I just want to say that the effect on how, again, to the people that are, it's really, if you notice, my response has always been the human aspect of it, because it's really what it is.
Now, I would like to talk a little bit about the Mutual Defense Treaty. You know, as we know, it's never been invoked, so nobody really knows what comes next after that. But of course, it is in the name. This is a mutual defense treaty. The U.S. can call upon the Philippines in the same way the Philippines can call upon the U.S. Now, in the event of a Taiwan contingency, are the Filipino people being prepared at all for this possibility that this day may come, beyond the discussion of evacuating Philippine nationals from Taiwan? I believe there are 200,000.
Yeah, well, of course, 2 points there. Proximity, only 70 to 80 nautical miles. And second, is, as you mentioned, the 200,000 Filipinos. Right now, when we meet and we discuss the issue of Taiwan, again, we're now dwelling deeper into how do we evict, how do we extract these Filipinos out of Taiwan into certain time frame. You see, again, it's similar to how we look at the Middle East. It's because of this number of Filipinos that are stationed there. Now, what may happen, it is still our view that, and we talk to both, and this has always been our standard line, that there should continue to have diplomatic dialogue and hopefully a peaceful resolution of disputes. It's still our line because, again, the factor that really dominates us is how to extract this number of people there.
Are the Filipino people being made aware that there is also perhaps a responsibility, according to this treaty, to defend the U.S. The way it sees fit,
I think,
if that were to happen?
I think they're aware. It's just that probably the Filipinos are just, how do you say this? They're just happy that there's a treaty. The United States will be there and will protect us at a certain situation. This just gives a lot of confidence. I still think that the Mutual Defense Treaty is really not, how do you say, it's not provocative. It is actually a deterrent. That's how we see it. So deterrent that the country will be protected in case if there is such a conflagration that may happen.
China certainly seems to have historically viewed deepening U.S. and Philippine defense ties as a provocation. Now, I want to go back to something you said earlier about how many Filipinos are in fact happy that the Mutual Defense Treaty exists and that in a crucial moment the Americans will be there. And both sides have continuously reaffirmed their commitment to the MDT. But we're also facing a moment where the U.S. is deeply engaged in the Middle East. It also has its eye on Cuba and on Greenland. So what gives Manila the confidence that if there were, say, an incident in the South China Sea where a red line is crossed, that American attention and resources will in fact be there?
We've been engaging a number of like-minded countries also on maritime awareness domain. There has been some kind of patrols, joint patrols. And we have been having a good number of visiting forces agreement. So these are all part and parcel of giving us the confidence that commerce, navigation, they will be maintained. So that's how we see things.
Now, bringing together the South China Sea topic as well as the ASEAN chairmanship of the Philippines, now the code of conduct for the South China Sea was supposed to be finalized this year under the ASEAN chairmanship. Some say that they don't think it's achievable within this time frame. Is it achievable? How close is the code of conduct to getting over the line?
Well, let me respond by saying that I am both an optimist and a pragmatist, in the sense that we are we are all endeavoring, that's ASEAN and China, to finish this to conclude this code of conduct, which has been being discussed for decades. So it's also by the fact that in 2023, foreign ministers at that time instructed that you have to finish this, you have to conclude this code of conduct by in 3 years, and it is now 2026, and therefore it falls on our lap as chair of ASEAN. Now we're doing everything now to have these discussions, to continue with the negotiations. The negotiations are supposed, hopefully, by the end of the year. So now there has been a monthly meeting circulating, rotating among ASEAN capitals as well as in China. And well, I'm just of the view that I think this time there's some kind of a political will and all, hopefully finish. However, it's true what the Americans are saying, that if you have a code of conduct that is bad, it's better to have nothing at all. And I also agree with them. But and therefore we are very conscious that the provisions of the code of conduct that we're coming up with is a good one, in consonance with UNCLOS and many other aspects of the negotiations.
Where would you put the probability that it will indeed be concluded this year?
As I said, I'm an optimist and a pragmatist. Well, I'm still hoping that by the end of the year, we'll be able to. We still have a few months to go.
Going back to this question of anniversaries in 2046, of course, that will be the centennial, marking 100 years of relations between the Philippines and the U.S. Is it at that point that the Philippines and the U.S. will be able to call what they have an equal partnership?
Well, again, it is evolving. Hopefully, that is something. But even before 2046, we believe that we can really evolve to have this equal partnership. In fact, as I said, it is already now our mantra, talking to our American friends, that for us to become politically security strong, we have to make us economically strong, and I think they're going towards that direction. I think it's also their foreign policy not to handhold everyone, but to have this confidence in ourselves. So we'll see.
Secretary Lazaro, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.